Alrighty. So I'm going to close out of this. If you don't have an issue with just hanging on and following with me, we'll just start with a new Revit model. So obviously hit new over here on the.
I mean, I'm drawing my walls right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just getting started drawing my walls. I guess soon I'm gonna be doing the doors and stuff. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. So go ahead and hit new, and then we'll pick our construction template. And we'll pick the architectural template. And hit OK. And it'll bring up your base Revit model. I'm going to, so over here at the View tab, under User Interface, is where you'll find all of the different browsers and pop-up tabs to bring up. So if you click on those, it should bring them up, and then you can drag down here where the tab is, you can drag that out. And similar to like the view windows, you can drag them and kind of reposition them. I'll leave both of them open so I'm not flipping back and forth. Typically, if I have a second monitor, I will have those actually pulled off the screen so that I can have a bigger view window. So at this point, I had a Revit setup video where you can change some of the main features of how like it creates new views. Does anybody, because we talked before about at the detail level, often things don't show up clearly. So if I were to place a column in this view, it would just show line work. Oops. I'll actually place a column. So there's a way to change all of your views and the new views you create so that it doesn't always create a view on this coarse detail level. Did everybody watch that? Did that make sense? And is that something you want me to go over?
It made sense. It made sense changing it right here in this view, but I ended up closing that drawing and starting a new one to get my walls going. And I know you did a way to make it global and change it so you wouldn't have to keep selecting fine or coarse. I don't remember how you did that.
Okay. Yeah. If we go up to the Manage tab and pick additional settings. And then at the bottom, there's detail level. It's the second one from the bottom. So if you pick that, it brings up this dialog box that controls the detail level at the specific scale. Is everybody there?
Yeah, got it.
Yep.
So you can't select any of these scales. You basically just move them to the left or the right with these arrows. And so if you click this, it's going to add the different scales to when you've created a scale, when you've created a view. If it's a 16th scale to 1 inch equals a foot scale, then it's going to create it with the medium coarse or detail level. And so if you click this arrow on the right again, then it will put them all over to the fine. So that any view that I create that has a scale of 1 inch to 12 inch equals a foot, then the detail level will be set based on this going forward. And once you hit OK, any new views that you create. So if we're to create a structural plan for level 1, you can see it created this new view, which is found over here on the project browser under structural plans level 1. You see it highlights it bold because we're in that view, and automatically created this view with the detail level set to medium. So any views that we create going forward, it will create them at a detail level that's not coarse. And before we start creating other views in the project browser, we can select, this is where all of our views live. And so you can select multiple views, and you can see over here on the detail level is blank in the properties palette. And we can set all of our views to medium at one time. And so now going forward, any views that we create that are smaller than 1/16 equals a foot will be either medium or coarse.
Excuse me, where do you find your project? Where do you find your project browser? Is it automatically on there, or
It
your
should be
laptop?
automatically on there, but if it's not, you go to your view tab, and all the way on the far right is a user interface.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Mine's having an issue where it won't snap to how yours is. It keeps wanting to fill up the entire top section of the screen.
Oh yeah. So you go to place it and it tries to go up here.
Yeah, now I can't get it back to where it was.
So if you select the top, so where the line that says properties, you should be able to grab that and pull it away and pull it down.
Yeah, I got that, but I can't get it back up top like how you got yours.
And so to get it on the side, you want to pull it all the way over to the very edge of the screen or edge of the window of Revit. And if it feels bigger than, like when I just drug it over, it made this a lot bigger than I would want it. If you move your mouse to between the two browsers or to the end, you should be able to get this little arrow that's going left and right, and then resize it so that it's at a smaller size. Were you able to get that to work?
I'm not sure what we're supposed to do next with the project browser. I forgot what we're supposed to be doing. Do you know what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, in the project browser, we just went over changing them all to the medium detail level instead of.
Like all the elevations?
Yeah, you can do it at one time if you can either hold shift, select.
Yeah, it's already there.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, so is yours already saying medium?
Yeah, it's saying medium for all elevations.
Okay. And same thing with your ceiling plans, level 1 and level 2.
No, that's on course.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, now my project browser's missing. Like it's just gone.
Okay. If you go to the user interface, it might.
Yeah, I tried that too, and it's gone. It's checked, but it's nowhere to be found. It's like the properties thing just overrode it, and now it's disappeared. It's gone.
Do you have a second monitor?
Yes, I do.
Is it, and it's not on the other monitors? or underneath another program. If you select Revit, it should bring up the project browser or the properties.
No,
It's
there. The only thing that's showing is properties. That's it.
okay. So can you close Revit and then reopen, and we'll see if it comes back. I'm not sure why it would be disappearing completely. I know in older versions they had issues with it, and if you just check and uncheck the properties browser or the project browser or the properties, it would come back. So it'd be missing. Go ahead.
Mine did the same thing, and it was actually tucked on the side of my monitor. Like just really on the side of the screen, it was just a little sliver.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think if you hold your Windows button down and hit Tab, it'll cycle through all of the open windows, and you might be able to see where it's living there. Or
Yeah, whoever just said that about the sliver, that's where it was.
okay.
Yeah, the views on this thing are funky. Like right now, my level 1 tab, where yours is to the right of your project browser and properties, is hidden underneath project browser and properties.
Oh, because it's pulled off. So,
Yeah, but when I try to pull just it over, it starts shrinking the entire program and leaving the project browser and properties like just on my desktop.
interesting. Are you on a desktop or are you on a laptop?
Desktop.
Desktop. And that I can't explain. You said when you try to bring it over, it moves it off to the side, or is it trying to snap to the?
No, so if I grab the edge where the tab, where level 1 shows, that's actually the edge of the Revit screen. So when I start moving it over, it starts shrinking all of Revit, and the project browser and properties stay where they are, but then I can see my desktop underneath it when I start sliding Revit over.
Okay. So in the newer versions of Revit, I think in 2019 and newer, you can actually pull these tabs completely away from your. They used to only be able to be within the Revit window. It's weird that you can see your desktop underneath, but you can pull these out and have them totally away from the actual Revit program itself. Yeah, but I'm not sure why you would be seeing your desktop underneath. So, but if you leave it docked, does it still do it, or?
I just figured it out. It was just being real picky. The sliver it was giving me to drop one of the windows in, either the browser or properties, was real small. So I was just skipping right over the little blue highlight.
Oh, gotcha. So it wasn't like that big. It was a much smaller little blue sliver.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. Are there any other issues that you're having? Is everybody been able to find their project browser and get kind of accustomed? Well, I mean, it'll be a bit before you get accustomed to the windows and the pallets that they have. But is anybody else still struggling getting the windows to be moved, getting them moved around? All right, should I go into laying out a floor plan? Where should we go from here? Where would you guys like to?
Yeah, if you want to start throwing up some walls.
Okay.
Do we do walls first or the grid lines first? Is a question.
It doesn't necessarily, you could do it either way. So it would just be however you want to lay out your walls. So in the other video, I did my grid lines later. So I used lines or reference planes to set the boundary. But you could use your grid lines for the same purpose.
All right. That's because I didn't know if one had a direct reference to the other.
No. So when I laid out my floor plan, I started with reference plans, which you can find on the architecture tab. And all the way on the right under the work plans. Reference plans are set default to not print. So they're almost like a line and def points. So if you pick that, and you can draw reference plans for your boundaries. So like if you wanted the exterior walls. And the reference plans are good because they show up in all of your views for the most part, except for your 3D view. So if you were to set up the boundaries of your house, your kind of exterior walls, before you start actually laying in the walls, you can see the reference planes in your elevation views. And if you draw a section, if you go to the top file tab under view, and right in the middle where it says create, you can click section, pick either on the right or the left, and then draw whichever direction you want the section to go to. Pick again, and it'll place your section. And then once you've placed a section, it will create a sections heading in the project browser on the left here. And there'll be section 1. It'll just name them section 1, 2, 3, and 4 until you start renaming them. You can either right click on the section itself or on the project browser to hit open. And it will take you to the section view. And you can see the reference planes are in the section view as well. It'll highlight this crop region. This crop region gives it's just like a viewport. So if you stretch this up with the grips, you can see that there's level 2, and you can see the extent of our reference planes.
Okay, mine kind of like messed up or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do besides do the sections, work with sections and all that, And this is what I find. I went to view and then something happened. Since something happened, there's like 5 levels of some sort. That's pretty crazy.
Okay, so let me know if this is what what it looks like.
So are you on the view right now?
Is this what, when you went to a section that you find it had several?
Yeah, something like that. Something very similar like that. I don't know what I don't know what else you did, but
So when we created a new file, it depends on the template that we used. So if you started with this imperial construction template or the structural template, it will give you, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
It's okay.
And so it will create those extra views, or actually extra levels. Well, and you can see in the project browser on the left that there's all those existing views, a demo view, substructure, because it's meant for like a general contractor. Often they'll create their own Revit model using the architectural and structural models. Often they're tasked with having to perform some work that they're not subcontracting out. So they'll use the construction templates. It's meant to be set up for them. The architectural template is much simpler. It doesn't bring in all of these extraneous views, which we don't really need for what we're doing. They're definitely useful, but for now, for this class, we're just going to use the architectural template. And so if you've created using another template besides the architectural template, there's no reason you can't just window. So if you pick anywhere and hold your left mouse button down and window over these views and select them, you can see that in the properties palette, there's 4 views selected, and you can just hit delete. It's going to warn you that you're going to delete these views, and that's okay. So we'll delete those views. And if you go to your project browser, there's still some 3D views that are left in here that it used to create those. If you pick any of the 3D views, hold shift down, and then click up to the views that you want to select, and then delete. You can get rid of those. And then this construction template will also have created some sheets for you automatically. The template had those extra levels created and some sheets. And you can see over here too that it already started with a bunch of schedules, which you won't need. There's quite a few schedules over here. So when we start, it's best to start with the architectural template. It doesn't have a lot of that information in there already. But if you did create it, that's okay. You can go over here. If you were to click and open these, they're not going to have. So over on the properties palette, if you double click on a view, it will open it. And they're all blank because there's no content in the model other than these views. They're just kind of there in preparation, knowing that, the contractor will, be utilizing a lot of this stuff. So if those are in your views, you can do the same thing, hold shift or pick the first one, hold shift, and then select all of them and hit delete. And then it takes that schedule category out completely because we don't have any schedules. And you can do that with the groups as well, or the sheets, I'm sorry.
Okay, so how did you do that again? Like,
yeah,
how did you make it look like that?
How did I make it look like? So these bottom levels, you can either select them individually and delete them, just hit the delete key.
Oh, you can just like delete them. Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's going to give you a warning, so we'll do it here. We'll delete, and it's going to say that it's going to delete these section selections, 6 elements, and 3 views will be deleted. because a view can't live without a level. So if it, here, I can't escape out of here. So what it's telling you is that it's already created these level 2 top of footing, level 3 basement slab. So if I were to delete these levels.
Hold on.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if we were to delete these levels, these views on the left can't live because they need to be associated to an actual level in Revit. So there's be a warning that says these are going to be deleted, and you can hit OK, and you can see they disappear. And you can do the same thing with these other views on the project browser. Select each one or shift select and hit delete, or you can right click and delete will be an option. The 3D views did not give us a warning because there is nothing associated with the 3D view. Your plan views, the plan views have to be associated to a level, but your other views are not dependent on a level.
Boom.
All right, and
Okay,
so
got it.
Awesome. You want to go delete the schedules now? We can select the schedules. There'll be a little plus in your project browser. You can open that up, and then we can delete all of these as well.
Oh.
We will not need any of these. Well, we potentially could, but we'll create our own because we'll create doors and window schedules.
How do you select them all at once?
So if you,
Because mine doesn't do it. Mine doesn't like drag. You're not supposed to like drag.
yeah, so if you pick the first one or any of them, and you hold the shift button down, and now pick another one, any other one, it will select all of them.
Oh, like
Or it'll
from the
select.
top to the one on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you could do the same to remove or add individual elements. You could hold control, and let's say you did want to delete those. You could uncheck those.
All right. So you want to delete them all?
Yep, I'd say delete them all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And then one more thing that it created was the sheets. And at this point, we don't really need any of these sheets. If you were to double click on them, it just is showing you that it's a placeholder and they've already got a title block inserted. Looks like they've got some view. Looks like they've got the level 1 view and the north south elevation on a sheet.
Oh, how'd you turn that into a template? Oh.
And you don't need these sheet views. You can go ahead and delete those.
Oh. Something like that. All right, thanks.
So if you were to start with the architectural template, if you go to, sorry, I'll slow down again, new. So check the little box for Imperial Structural, and you'll want to select the Imperial Architectural template. Hit OK.
Sorry, my microphone was on mute. So we're doing a whole new file, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yep. Yeah. If you've started one, that's okay. We can just go through this exercise to see some of these settings and things that we change.
Okay. What are we supposed to be doing this week for this week?
So this week we'll lay out our floor plan. So we'll draw the walls for our floor plan.
Oh, the walls for the. Oh yeah, I was talking about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there's several ways you can start creating your floor plan in Revit. The way I do it is I typically go to the architecture tab. And then on the far right, there's reference planes. I'll pick that. And then I'll pick anywhere and drag up or down or left or right to draw my exterior kind of my bounding box of all of the different the walls. So if you have an overall, so for this house that I chose, I have 55'6" overall dimension, up and down or north to south if this is north, if north is up, and 84 feet for the overall width. And so I'll draw my reference planes at those dimensions so I know my kind of exterior extents of the building. To adjust these, to get them to be the dimensions that you need, if you select on one, there are these temporary dimensions that will pop up. Does everybody see that? If you're following along?
Yeah.
So if you select an item, it'll bring up these temporary dimensions. If you select in the blue highlighted dimension, you can see it highlights it with a box around it. If you pick with the left mouse button there, it will allow you to enter in the dimension. Now Revit units are default set to feet. So if you enter 84 in this case, it's going to put 84 feet. If you give it a space and put a 6, if there's a space, there's a number followed by a space, it will use feet and inches. And you don't have to necessarily add the inch mark or the foot mark. It will automatically know, as long as there's a space, what the units are. So in this case, it's 84 feet. And you see it moved that reference plane 84 feet from this first reference plane. There's also a little dimension shown beneath this temporary dimension. If you were to pick that, it's going to create an actual dimension. And then we'll do the same thing for the other side. So we'll pick on one of these reference planes and then enter the other dimension. In my case, it's 55'6". And now I've got the extents of my building. If I were to make that a dimension again, we'll do that again. We'll pick one of these lines. And at this point, since I've already adjusted this line, this distance, I could select either line and you can see it's going to tell me it's 55'6" from this other line. And it automatically will pick the nearest reference plane. So theoretically, if I draw another reference plane in here, it's going to add now 2 dimensions showing you where those reference planes are. But in this case, we'll just leave it so that we can add this temporary dimension. We can make this a actual dimension by clicking the little dimension graphic here beneath it. To move a dimension, if you hover over it and left click, you can highlight it, and then when you move your cursor back over it, you'll get the little move symbol there, and you can move the dimension over. You could also, on your modified tab, hit the move button, pick anywhere, and then move it independently. So by just selecting it, getting the little move crosshairs positioned over the top, you could just drag, left click and drag. that make sense to everybody as far as how to create a reference plane and turn your temporary dimensions into actual dimensions, and then modify the locations by entering in the data into the temporary dimension?
I didn't get it. I was too drowsy. I was like too drowsy or something like that. I don't know. Just yeah.
Okay. If you select,
I know. I know how to get to the. I can figure out how to get to the dimensions on my own.
okay.
And by using annotate. Do we use annotate for this? By the way.
For reference planes,
Yeah.
no, you'll use the architecture tab.
Oh.
And on the far right, there's the work plane.
The ref plane.
Yep, you'll pick the ref plane, and that'll.
Okay, measure between two references.
What's that?
So do we click measure between two references, or what?
So what we just did was we picked a reference plane, just selected it by left clicking on it, and it will bring up a temporary dimension. So if we pick this reference plane,
Oh.
you can see how it brings up a temporary dimension. And we can actually click on that dimension to change how far that top reference plane is from the bottom. So if we wanted to put it 40 feet, we could just enter in the data into the temporary dimension, and it will change the location of that reference plane.
Hold on, wait, I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
Okay, so if we pick on the reference plane, it'll bring up this temporary dimension, and you just click on the number. And if you hover over the number, it will let you know that you can edit the dimension length. So if you just left click on that.
Hold on, I'm
No worries.
sorry. All right, so you go on reference plane and then you fix these whatever these lines are.
Yeah, these are the reference planes.
Is there any possible way you can trim them? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I don't believe reference planes are able to be trimmed, so they won't highlight as an element to trim. But you can, if you select one, it'll give you two open circular grips on the outside.
I can figure this out.
Okay. And you can drag them.
Like drag.
Yeah.
How did you turn those into like actual dimensions?
Yes. If you select a reference plane, and this works with almost any entity in Revit, it will bring up this temporary dimension. And then beneath there is a little picture of a dimension.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if you hover over, it'll say, make this temporary dimension a permanent dimension. If you select that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, dimensions work the same way as the temporary dimension. So if I were to pick this reference plane again, it's not going to give me a temporary dimension because it actually has a dimension.
All right. Thank you. That's all I need. Go on.
Yeah. So I click in there and then click into the dimension, and then I'm able to change it back. So let's say this is for simplicity, we'll just pretend that this is just a big square building with these dimensions. If you go to the architecture tab and select the wall, so it'll be the very first button on the left. If you hover over it, it kind of shows you what it does. If you click the arrow beneath where it says wall, it'll bring up some other options, and we'll want wall architectural. And if you pick that, it's typically going to bring up your basic wall, the generic 8-inch. And that should be already loaded into your project. If you look on the properties palette, you can see where all the different constraints are. We have location line. That's the location of where the wall will be placed. So if I were to place an 8-inch wall on this reference plane, it's going to put 4 inches, it's going to put it centered on this reference plane. So there'll be 4 inches of the wall on both sides of this reference plane. Before you place a wall, you can change where the location line is to core center line, face to finish exterior, face to finish interior, and then core face exterior and interior. I'm going to choose finish face exterior. Is everybody with me so far? So we can pick finish face exterior. And then the next constraint is the base constraint. And so it's going to place this wall at level 1 with a 0-inch offset. And you can see the next constraint is the base offset. And then there's a top constraint, which right now is set to unconnected, which means that it's not going to be connected to a level. These represent different entities in the model that you can connect to or constrain your wall. So if I'm going to draw a wall, I'm going to constrain it to my level 2. Or in our case, for a single story house, we're going to rename level 2 to top plate to signify that'll be the top of the wall, because there won't be a second level. If you're not doing a 2-story, it'll only be 1 level. So the second level will be top plate. And then now there's the next one down is the unconnected height. That's grayed out. You can't modify that because we've constrained the wall to level 1 with a 0-inch offset up to level 2 with a 0-inch offset. So if I were to give it a 6-inch offset, now my unconnected height on the properties palette is going to say 10'6", because it's going up to level 2, which is set at 10 feet, and then the offset is 6 inches above that. It works both ways, so you can give a negative value. So if you wanted it to be -1 foot, you just type -1 on the top offset, and then now our unconnected height will be 9 feet because it's connected to the level 2, and it's -1 foot from that level 2. The same thing will apply to the base offset. If you wanted it to give a base, so let's say level 1 is your finished floor, but you wanted your wall to sit a foot below that, you could hit a negative value. And then now the wall will be tied to level 1, and it'll put the base at 1 foot below, and it'll go up to level 2, and it will put the top offset to 1 foot below the level 2 offset, or the level 2 level line. Is there any questions so far?
Is that what we're supposed to do if we only have a single story?
If you only have a single story, so the one I'm working on is a single story. It does have a game room in the attic space, but for all intents and purposes, it has a single story. Mine just says level 2, but it's going to be the top plate.
Okay.
So you'll likely want a second level. So if I were to delete this level, it will leave everything where it is. So you could theoretically only have one level. And it will now say top constraint is unconnected, and it will leave it at the 11 feet. So,
Okay. Are all single stories like the -1 foot for the wall?
no, not necessarily.
Okay.
So on the one that I'm doing, I have my single story, and I've got level 1 set as the top of plywood. So where the plywood starts is going to be where I'm considering level 1.
Okay.
So if I were to go into a section here on this one that I've started, in a section view, you can see, we'll just crop it off so we can see that level 1 is where I placed the floor. Now for this week, we don't need to have a floor in, we just can have the walls in. But see how the base of the walls will sit on this plywood, which is at level 1. So the plywood is, bring this over a little bit more so it's easier to see the relationship here. Level 1 is, this wall is set to level 1 and a 0 base offset. And then the floor that's beneath it, because floors work differently than walls, so floors work the same way. They have a level offset, but it goes from the top of the floor instead of the bottom of the floor. So that's why the floor is sticking below.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and to answer your question, as you can see over here where I've kind of started my footing detail, and I think most houses, particularly around here, they'll have a foundation wall or a stem wall that'll sit on top of a continuous footing. And so this footing will be negative. Right now I've got the footing -2 foot 11.5, and then the top offset is -11.5, which puts it below the top offset. So the top is set 11.5 inches below the level 1, so that I can have room for my floor, my 3/4 inch plywood floor, and my 10-inch wood joists, which are 9.25. And then I've got a sill plate that's another 1.5 inches. So that's where I came up with that number. So as we go through the building, and it's funny is that when I initially drew my footprint, I did the floor everywhere, but technically in the garage is going to be on the grade, right? So level 1 might not be where the ground is. The ground is going to be lower than level 1. And probably most of our houses, unless they're slab on grade, you have to step up to get in. So your floor will be 6 inches, a foot below. And so these walls that are on the outside of the garage are going to be lower than that, the level 1. So right now I've got my level 1 on the garage. It is going to be -1 foot because it's not sitting on the floor joists and on the plywood. And so I'll have to create a step to get in the front door and into the garage if I'll have a garage door. Now this house, the floor plan I chose has a deck that is around most of the perimeter. So they'll have a deck that you'll walk up some stairs and get into the house. So the short answer is it depends on where your floor is, but that'll be typical. And the book, once we get our books, there's some good details showing exactly how the typical construction. Where I used to live in California, almost all the houses were slab on grade. That means they didn't have these crawl spaces. A lot of them just were, poured the slab right on the dirt, obviously compacted and graveled dirt, And then there was no step into the house because it was all slab on grade. So you're on concrete. Obviously, that's not everywhere, but usually in the southern climates, there doesn't need to be a footing or a stem wall that goes below. See, in the book, we'll learn that, and you might have learned this already in civil engineering, that there's a frost line. And so your footing for your building support has to be at a depth for your region that's below the frost line, either below or at the frost line. I can't remember exactly the rules. Does that make sense? Have you guys learned any of that in civil? As far as, and maybe the footing kind of stuff, usually the civil engineer will give you a geotechnical report based on the soils in your area, and that will determine a lot of how your building will need to be constructed.
We've lightly touched on it, yeah.
Okay. So in Oregon, for the most part, and obviously there's exceptions, you'll see this kind of foundation wall footing, usually about a foot down, doesn't need to be much deeper than that. I believe that's the reason they do a lot of basements on the East Coast or in colder climates, because if they're going to have to get that low to get below the frost line, might as well put an additional room there. You've already excavated it out to put the footing, so. So back to our wall creation. And was there any more questions about that? So there was a question about where to put your walls, and I would put your walls at your level 1 or your 0. That could be your finished floor height. Obviously, the finished floor would be a little bit, if you have, they'll have underlaying and carpeting or tile, or if you have wood floor. But yeah, so zero is whatever you define it as, really. So in a lot of projects, your level 1 might be at 100 plus 100 feet based on sea level. All right, so if you want to pick a wall, as you can see, it's saved some of these settings. So you can change, I would just leave it at 0, top offset, and a 0 base offset. And have it go up to level 2. And then there's several options for how you draw the walls that are up here that automatically show up when you in your modify place wall palette at the top. And so here we have a single line. You can draw a wall with just a single line. You can draw using a rectangle. So basically it's like a polyline, except this will create your wall element. Polygon, circular wall, arcs, fillet, ellipses. And there's also this pick lines, which we use a lot. So if you already have lines, you can do this pick line and pick a line, and it will place a wall along the entire extent of that line. Or you can pick faces using, like, as you can see there, funky model, generic model masses. You can pick a face and it will actually create a wall based on that face. So if you're doing like a fancy museum or something, they often have those weird walls. So we'll just start with the line, and I chose finish face exterior. And then so you just pick anywhere, and you'll start to create your wall. And you can see that right now the wall is on the outside of our reference planes. If you hit the space bar, it will flip the wall back and forth based on that location line. So right now our location line is the finish face exterior. And if I hit the space bar, it will flip the wall. I don't want to save. Oh yeah, it's going to try to close. I don't know why it keeps trying to do this to me. No. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but I keep getting this error saying that it's going to close down in 10 minutes. And that I have not been able to solve.
Haven't happened to me yet. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I think it's because I'm signed into several of my work Autodesk account. I created a one for school. And so I think the Autodesk licensing thing is getting confused. Normally, it won't even let you in if you're not licensed. So it's kind of weird. So I'll hit new again. Sorry, we'll have to go through this again, but it should be pretty quick and easy to do this. I'm just going to draw my reference planes again. All right, now, so if we hit the wall up here at the top, now we can place our wall. And before it closed on me, you can see that when you hit space, it'll toggle the wall back and forth. So I want it to be on the inside of my boundary here. And so I can pick anywhere, orient the wall to the correct side that I want, and then pick again. And it's going to stay in the command so that you could keep placing your walls. And so in this instance, I could click down here to this bottom corner because we talked about wanting to just use this box as our outline. I can pick in that corner and it'll keep you in the command. Pick again at the top and then pick the last wall. So as you see, it didn't close it. And then we have a wall that's off here. If you go to the Modify tab, and then kind of in the middle there on the left, there's a Trim Extend corner. You can see the little graphic showing you what it does. You can pick that. And then pick the first wall. Either wall doesn't matter. And then pick the second entity. And you see the little dashed lines indicating where it's going to trim so that you know what it's trimming to. And then click, and then now you've got this corner cleaned up. To take care of this wall down here that got misplaced, on the same Modify tab, in the middle, a couple buttons over from the trim, there's a line. If you pick that, and here I'll hover over it and let it, says aligns one or more elements, and then it'll show you the little graphic. You can see that it's showing you that you want those two walls to be aligned. You pick the first wall, the first wall, or in this case, the reference plane you want the other element to align to, and then pick that wall, and it will align to that reference plane because we picked the reference plane first and then hit that wall. And I'll do that again just so. On the Modify tab, under the Align, we'll pick Align, pick the reference plane or pick whatever element you want to align to. So left click, and you can see that it gives you this little dash blue line graphic. And then you can, it'll show you when you hover over the wall. See, it won't highlight these other walls because they're not in a position that can be aligned. They're perpendicular to this reference plane that we picked. So only this wall and this wall we can align with this reference plane. We could also align this other reference plane to it, but we want to take care of this angled wall. We'll pick the edge of the wall and it will align to there. Is there any questions so far?
Nope, I think I got my floor plan laid out. Well, at least just exterior walls.
Yeah, and that's fine. Kind of getting the idea that I'm probably going a bit too fast and expecting a little bit too much. So I'll definitely be dialing it back as we get familiar with this software. So it is often, as you can see, kind of touchy and not necessarily intuitive. So if all you get is just your exterior walls by the end of the week, go ahead and just turn that in, and that should be fine. We can continue working on the floor, and we'll kind of scale back as needed for everyone, just so that we can go together as a class and really get used to using this new software.
How do I load external families that aren't already listed, like for different doors and different windows?
So if you wanted different doors and different windows, have you already tried to load? So I'll go with architecture tab.
I tried the way that I did on 2020 Revit and it doesn't work. So I don't know how to do it.
Okay. So if you click on the door, if you go to the architecture tab,
Yeah.
click door, it'll automatically put you in a place where you can load load a new family in. Does that come up for you?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Okay.
Okay.
And then
so
from there.
Yeah. So once you hit load, theoretically, it should bring you up to this Imperial library, which is it downloads when you download Revit. So it's on your C drive program data, Autodesk Revit 2021 libraries and English Imperial. When you install it, it should add the Imperial library in your metric library. But there may be a case where it doesn't automatically add those shortcuts. If it doesn't, then this is the path that you'll go to, is the C drive program data, Autodesk.
I've got that folder pulled up and all that's in there is structural precast.
So you have English Imperial and it just says structural precast?
Yep, that's the only one I got.
That's as me as well.
Interesting. That's unfortunate.
Because that would normally be where all the different families are, right? Yeah. That's how I did it in the last version, and I was wondering if maybe there is a different way that I wasn't familiar with or anything.
No, you're right. Yeah, that should be the way. And it sounded like UI also was experiencing that. Is anybody else? If so, let's do this. If you go to the Insert tab, this is how you can load a family without being at a command. So when you hit any family, it typically gives you an option to load the family. But if you go to the Insert tab on the far right, there's Load Family. And it should automatically bring up your English Imperial library.
Same situation.
Same. So
Yep,
Yeah.
just structural precast folder in that English Imperial. That's it.
Right.
So it sounds like 2 or 3 of you are getting that same thing. Is anybody getting the full English Imperial? Or is this everybody not getting anything, just the precast?
Well, Alan is not. He only has the structural precast.
So you only have structural precast too?
Correct.
Yep, same.
That is bizarre.
I wonder if that has something to do with our licensing issue at the beginning.
Possibly. Because I think trying to install, and it was like I think what was happening is partly installing, and then it was not, being able to go through and I think maybe it left some files behind. So one thing you could try to do is if you go to add and remove programs.
I think I figured mine out.
Was it putting it in a different place?
I loaded into the 2020 families folders that I had, and it just populated all the different doors and stuff in 2021. So I know not everyone had 2020, so I don't know if that'll work for everyone.
Right. Oh, yeah. If you didn't have it, it wouldn't work. So one thing you could try, and it shouldn't take too long and it shouldn't screw anything up, theoretically, is go to your add and remove programs and try to do a repair or reinstall and see if it will load in. Maybe it didn't copy down those families for whatever reason. And if it doesn't have that Imperial library, I would guess that it might not have other files that you might need. So that might be one something you might want to try first to see if you can get that. So I did a search on, not having the templates of the families. They appear to be missing. And so let's try this. So if we go to the Insert tab, get Autodesk Content. Does everybody see that? It seems like there might be a way. And so, yeah. Everybody see that? So if you are missing your content, and I would do that even if you have 2020, you might just try to go to the Insert tab and then get Autodesk Content. And then it looks like you would want to download these English United States. I probably wouldn't worry about the metric, but it might not be too bad. There's these exe files you can download that will add that content back in, hopefully. Is anybody going to try that?
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm working on the first one right now. It's downloading. See what happens when I open it.
Yeah, it's not too big of a file, but it's the family templates, which are the templates when you're creating a family. It'll give you can create your families on your own. And it will give a long list. I imagine you guys probably don't have this if that didn't load. If you go to your file, new, and family. Family is the Revit block. Where all your doors, windows, all of your content lives it's all in a family, an external family. So if you go to create family, I imagine that this is all, this might not be here if Revit didn't load correctly or install correctly, I mean.
It said some of those files couldn't be installed and I needed to completely restart my system.
That's fun.
So I just canceled out of it for now.
Okay. So that, as far as getting families, that's how you would do it. You go to the insert tab. So I don't think you're missing anything. I think it's the same as 2020, but it just seems as though for some reason during the install for a lot of you, those elements didn't get installed. And so let me know if this works, if going to this site. Does anybody need me to send them this site? Or actually, you could access this site by getting the Autodesk content, right?
Yeah, that should work.
Okay. So, but to answer your question, yeah, to get doors and windows, that'd be, they should be in there. I also put on Moodle a link to most sites. So if you, let's see. I'll open up Moodle here so we can see.
So we probably just need the 2 exe files from this Autodesk network then, correct?
Yeah, that is my guess, is that, where did it go? Must have closed it, but yes.
All right.
So I would get so this will be probably your actual library. So this is the templates, like I was just saying. If you wanted to create your own families,
Right.
those are the template families. As you can see, the size is a lot bigger because these are the actual door, window, beams, all of the library here. So that should be the 2 files that you need that are missing. Yeah.
That may help with a lot of the frustration in watching the video going, just click here, it's not there. Damn it.
Yeah, that second file, the actual library seems to be downloading.
Oh, good. Yeah, that'll be more important than the family templates. I'm not sure. I think I know the customizing AutoCAD teacher had been adding some family creation in his class as, you know, the industry's turned to Revit. So that would be nice to have that. But in this class, I don't think we'll get into family creation. You can create families on your own.
Yeah, never mind. It just crapped out too.
So what is it doing? Is it not even getting to download, or are you trying? Did you download and can't get it to install?
I download and can't get it in, so I open the file and you got to click extract to get the files, and it made it almost to the end, and then it gave me a bunch of unable to install, error, all kinds of stuff in the dialog box, and then it said close all your applications, restart Windows, and then try again.
Okay. Is Revit open?
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yes, it is. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, I might close Revit and then try again. It seems like it's installing somewhat quickly. So yeah, I try to close Revit or any other Autodesk software you might have open. Usually it allows you to, it sends you a warning that says, hey, you got to close Revit and AutoCAD before it can install. So it's funny that it's not doing that. So, and it may be you just have to close everything, restart, and try to install without anything open. But you're able to get it downloaded. It's just the installation that's where you're getting errors.
Yeah.
So I was saying on Moodle, I put a link to one website on the Wednesday class, the Anderson's Windows and Doors, just to show you that you can get families from most suppliers of windows, doors, anchors, almost every place you can download Revit families for their windows. So if you don't like the windows that are the default windows in Revit, if you can ever get them available, then you can browse out. If you know a company, any of these major companies will typically have all of your CAD files, Revit files, PDFs of the various doors and windows that they provide, and you can for free, and you can use them in your drawings. So I've also, one of the places I go, I think you have to have an account for Revit City, but it's free. It's just another place that I found is relatively safe to get Revit models. So I can't remember what I was searching for. Oh yeah, I think I was looking for a washer. I don't know. I was just wanted a fancier washer in my model. And so you can search in here. And then it'll give you a whole list of Revit families that you can download.
And then you just download that and save it to where you have your families?
You could do that. I typically will put that someplace else, so I leave my families kind of untouched. So at work, we actually don't save it to our C drive in the family spot. We kind of just leave that untouched, as it were. But that's really up to you. I keep it in a folder, a separate folder, Revit files, families, and then I kind of make my own library similar to the library that should come installed in Revit. But that's entirely up to you. It doesn't matter. It's just a place to store it. But often if I'm downloading specific windows or something that I might use, it's faster for me to find it either on my on a C drive than buried in the program data.
Right. It is separated too.
Yeah. And so like at work, we have our own, because we also create a lot of our own families. We have custom families. And so we have a separate Revit family folder organized similar to that. So then when we have other people working on the projects, we can direct them where to find it on the server. But as you guys get jobs in the different trades, that should be typical. Having a central location for all your downloads so that everybody can use them, and they'll have different guidelines. Some places don't like you to do that. They don't like you to download anything onto their servers. It kind of just depends. You have to, as you start working, and some of you, I think you already know that, as you get jobs, every place is different, and they're going to have different requirements that you need to follow. So for instance, on mine, I downloaded washer and dryer. It doesn't really matter. It was just something I like different families. I like to create a bunch of different families for custom families too. So
is that a dog washing station in there?
yeah, actually, Yeah, I deviated from my floor plan slightly, and like I was saying, you could do that. I've always wanted to have like the tub, the deep tub. They're usually like a resin.
Oh yeah.
And then like a little mop sink there. So yeah, I added those into my kind of like mud room here, laundry room. Throw the dog in there, and
Oh yeah. Welcome to Oregon.
yeah, exactly. No kidding. So does everybody have this when you, so I know that it sounds like most of you are missing your families or the Revit families. Were the basic, like so in the videos, if I was going over wall types, were these wall types also loaded in there? Did they have the content?
Those were all there.
Those were all there. Okay, good.
For me at least.
Yeah, I had them too.
Oh, good. And that would be really frustrating.
Yeah.
So once you get some wall content in, I'm just using this boundary for me because my building, I have the overall dimension, but I do not have the dimensions to the walls themselves. So I kind of use this as my kind of deck extents. And once you start adding other walls, you don't really need to, I don't use construction lines or, reference planes or detail lines after that. I will start drawing walls. Sorry, I just did that without, so I'll pick the wall. Again, I typically am in the habit of checking the properties because when you get in more complex buildings and you start modeling a bunch of stuff, if you're doing wall soffits and different walls, it's good to get in the habit of looking at what you're drawing before you start drawing it, and making sure that you didn't change these doing something else. So to make sure, usually you can glance over at it, and if you see negative value, or if you're doing like a soffit wall that's got it's plus 7 feet in the air, and you start drawing a wall and it disappears because the cut plane is too low. So it's good to glance at this. And then, so once you start drawing your other walls.
Joe, aren't our exterior walls, aren't those supposed to be structural walls? Isn't that where we go and get that? Okay.
Yeah. So on the exterior, the exterior walls, so there's two architecture and a structure tab.
Yeah.
The first category, you can actually choose wall structural. And you can see that as we're looking at our properties palette, it's going to give you a different, it's even though it's the same wall, because it's a structural wall, it wants to place the wall negative from the floor. So level 1, and you see negative 20.
Right.
That's because the structure is anticipating that you're working facing, that you're going to use the structural walls to actually draw more of your foundation walls and whatnot. So like in here, I use structural walls for my foundation walls, but these I use architectural walls.
Oh, okay.
So, and in the video I went over, sorry, I can wrap it really easy. So and I think somebody emailed me about having issue like creating content and it disappearing. If you're creating a structural wall, so right now I'm going to guess that this wall is going to disappear when I draw it for 2 reasons. So see, it gave me a little warning. None of the created elements are visible on the floor plan. Part of the reason is because this sheet, so this level 1, without anything selected, you can see the data. Sorry, I'm moving. You can see the data on the properties palette, and it's set to disciplined. You see under graphics, that first category there, we have view scale, display model, detail level, parts visibility, orientation, wall join display, and discipline. Right now it's set to architectural. because these walls we drew from the architecture tab. And typically, as working as an architect, you would draw them as you wouldn't draw them as structural walls. They'd be even though they would be structural walls, they would be architectural walls, because the structural engineer essentially would be drawing or defining where the structural walls are. He might not have all of the exterior walls be bearing walls if he's using shear walls. Normally they all are, but typically we'll draw our floor plan using architectural walls. So, but we drew a structural wall. Two reasons it disappeared. One is because it's set to level 1, so it's -20. It's starting at -20, or it's starting at level 1 and going down 20 feet. And it's going up to level 1, and it has a 0 offset. So our view reference, our view range is above that. So we're not going to see any content. If we keep going down, we see that it's set to architectural, so that'll be one reason it won't show up. View range will be another reason. So if we go to your view range, this defines what our plan views, exactly how they are cutting. So, I mean, when you guys draw a 2D plan, you're assuming that it's looking down and that it's going to cut at a certain level. So if you're looking at a roof plan, you're looking from above the roof and you're going to see the entire building. You'll see the roof parapets, all the mechanical equipment. If you're looking at a level 1 plan now, it assumes that you're up, that the bottom is 0, the level 1, 0, and that it's cutting a line at 4 feet and looking down. And then the top range up here, you can set the top. So the top range will be, so you're cutting through at 4 feet, but it's going to show you everything from 7'6" up and looking down. Excuse me. And you can see the little graphic over here. And so this lives on your properties palette, kind of in the middle under extents and your view range.
Right.
If you hit show, and so you can see that our view depth 6, which is this orangey area, is located here. So it's saying 6, this is your view depth. Right now, the view depth is set to level 1 and a 0 offset. So that means our view depth is right stopping at level 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so our bottom is also, so you see here, primary range bottom is also a 3, or a 3 here. And so that's the bottom, and it's set the same as the view depth. So that's one reason we're not seeing that wall that I displaced. So if I were to go over here and set the bottom to, let's call it -2, I'm going to hit apply and see what happens. So what happens is I'm trying to set the bottom depth, the bottom range below this view depth range. So it's saying a view depth plane is set above the bottom clip plane. So it's saying that these two are tied together. So I can't have this 3 here on our graphic lower than 6. And it's actually 4 and 6, I think, right? Or the view depth level. So I'd need to change this one to -2 as well, or greater. And so now if I hit apply, it will let me do that. And we can actually see our structural, our wall here that we just placed, because now our view depth is cut.
It's low enough.
Yeah, it's looking down. And so that'll be a lot of times when you are generating content, it's because either the view range is incorrect, there's a lot of different reasons why the elements will not show up. View range is correct. Often this discipline, if it's set to structural, you might not see all these walls, because when we created those walls, we created them with this wall architectural. So we told it that these are architectural walls. And so we can set the discipline on our properties palette. This is nothing selected. And now it's only going to show us walls that we placed or elements that are structural. So if I want to replace a column, the column should show up because that's a structural element. And so we turn that back to architectural and we'll see everything again. And so when you do a framing plan, which we'll hold off on that for now, as you can see, you can't see all my doors and windows and everything or anything that I created because one reason is I turned it to structural. So if I were to turn it to architectural, now I see all my content. So that controls another way to control the content that you're seeing in a view is your view range and then your discipline.
So here's a quick question. When I try to throw a door on this floor plan view just on the wall, it doesn't like it. So do you just want us to leave the openings, or is there a way we need to place that door specifically?
What do you mean it doesn't like it?
Well, let me try to do one again real quick here. I'm gonna grab a door. Does it matter what I set the height at for the door?
No.
Okay.
Well, so if you hit door, this sill height is it'll matter as in if you put a negative or positive value, that is in relation to the level that you're placing it on. So if you gave it, that's just where the door sits. So if I gave this 6 inches, I'll place the door, and if I go into a 3D view, so a 3D view, I really like working in a 3D view. I will, up here on the this little bar beneath, and so this quick access toolbar is probably up top for you guys. I think it comes in default up top. If you click this little arrow next to it, you can move all the way down here, show above or below the ribbon. So I'm imagining it's probably up here for you guys. I like to keep it below just so I can remember that I've even added things here. So hopefully I'm not going off into a tangent too much. And then you can right click on any of these buttons, almost any of these buttons, and add it to your quick access toolbar. So here I have the switch windows added. Some of these things are default. So, but here's where you can find your 3D view. This little house is on your quick access toolbar, and it'll create a 3D view. As you can see, we don't have one right now. Also, if you go to your view tab up top here, the view tab under create, and then all of your views are here. And so I typically like to work with my plan and a 3D view and an elevation so I can see everything that's going on as I'm modeling a building. And so here I click that 3D view, and it just automatically created a 3D view. If you go to your project browser and hit the plus on the 3D views, you can see it created this in brackets 3D view. And so when I placed the door, because I gave it that 6-inch value when I placed it, now the door is floating above the floor 6 inches. So typically when you're placing a door, you don't need to specify a height. It'll be specified within the family. So we'll go back and place this door. And Revit remembers, so it can be helpful. Oops, sorry, I keep using the quick commands. If you go back to architecture door, it remembers what you did last, which honestly is pretty helpful, but can be super frustrating if you forget that it does that, because then you'll try to place an element and you won't know why, that it's placing it weird. And so see here, we can So a door, there are many Revit families are attached to certain elements. So in this case, doors, I can't place a door out in space. A door is associated to a wall. And so unless you created a generic family of a door, which you can do, the door will want to be attached to a wall. And so you just pick on the wall. And as you can see, as I move my cursor back and forth, it will change the way the door is situated. And so you pick and you can place a door, and it just keeps you in the command, and you can place doors for days. And so you can see here in Revit also that the quick dimensions that we were looking at before are also showing up here as we're trying to place a door, so that you can eyeball it and you can see exactly that I'm placing this center. And I think Revit is trying to be smart and looking for snaps like that, because it assumes that you want to place it in a center in a room or whatnot. So you can pick, once you've placed an element like this door, it will bring up these little flip instances. And I don't know if you guys have done too much dynamic families in AutoCAD, but it's the same, it's a similar option that you can create in a dynamic block in AutoCAD. And so you can flip the location of the door. So the swing side will flip to whatever side that you need. And then this other dimension here. Does this, I couldn't find a red one, at least not, but is this cursor easier to follow, the big black arrow? I know sometimes when I'm in a command, it actually, I noticed, changes to the little crosshairs, which I haven't figured out if you can modify those. But I think this big cursor is a little bit easier to see and follow, I hope.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I got that door figured out too. I think I just accidentally tried to place it twice, so it was trying to stack them and do something funky. Oh,
right, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And Revit will be somewhat smart. See, I was able to stack it on top of each other where they were overlapping, but if I were to try to move it to be equal, it's going to delete it because it's trying to cut nothing because the doors are the same size. So it's going to delete one of the doors. So yeah, and that's the problem with the building information modeling software, is that it's almost, sometimes it's good and bad as far as it's like almost too smart for its own good. That things that I would do in CAD easily, Revit won't let you do because it's actually creating three-dimensional content, and so it's trying to like warn you of things. And so in some instances it's really good, like I couldn't stack doors, or I can't place two doors in the same spot because it's not cutting things. But in some instances it can make it pretty frustrating, especially when it doesn't tell you what's going wrong. And so basically that's it, I think, for the, I mean, obviously that's not it, but just to get walls and doors in, I think that's all I'll expect for this week, is getting just all the walls, the exterior walls. If you don't have interior walls, if you don't have your doors and windows, that's fine. We'll just keep working on it. And, as we go throughout the weeks, we'll adjust as needed. So if you guys have time, I know class is supposed to be over, but I don't mind staying as long as you need, just especially this first couple of weeks are always rough. We can go over anything else as we go. We can go over kind of modifying this little floor plan. We can go over throwing dimensions on there. We can go over creating a sheet and putting our plan on the sheet. We can go over printing. Printing is a bit weird in Revit too. AutoCAD is also can be kind of weird, but I know AutoCAD users who try to go to Revit find it not as user friendly as CAD. So what, and if anybody has jump off and has any questions, let me know too, and we can go over some things if you have to leave.
Yeah, if you could show us just how to take what you've got right there and put it on a title block and what the deliverable would look like.
Yeah, for sure. So from here, let's say our plan is all done. Well, it doesn't even have to be done. Often I'll do a cartoon set. So which basically means I know what sheets I want. I know how many plans I'm going to have, and I'll start building my set as I'm modeling, right? So that as I'm going through, I'll have my plans already on sheets. I can start thinking about, okay, this size of title block will not work, or this scale won't work because it's too small. All my dimensions are like really crowded. So it's good to know that stuff in the beginning, because if you start modeling and then you haven't kind of planned out how you're setting up your sheets, it can cause a lot of rework to do. So it's good to be creating sheets as you go along. To create a sheet, it's up at the view tab at the top. So you pick view, and then kind of towards the middle on the right is sheet. And this is going to create a sheet. It's going to bring up so you pick that and bring up a dialog box. This might not be there for you guys, because if it didn't load some of the families, it might not have loaded this title block. So what's that?
It's there for me anyway.
Oh, good. So it already, the template should come with this preloaded title block. If not, or if you want to, so I have the title block on Moodle that I was going to have you guys use. On the very top, kind of the general part, I have the Revit files. Which brings you to the Google Drive. It'll be located under Families, Title Blocks, and then here's the 24 by 36 title block. And there's an 8.5 by 11, like a little sketch title block as well if you wanted. And I can create any other kind of title blocks, or if you feel froggy, you can we can try to go over and how to modify a title block to whatever size you'd want.
I don't see that folder in my drive.
So if you went to the Revit files and you're not getting it doesn't open up to the shared drive.
I don't even see the architectural design folder anywhere.
And you click the link here, and it doesn't take you to the.
I found it.
Okay, good.
Okay, and then where do we put that that thing?
So if you download this title block, again, you can put it with your Revit files, but I would just create a folder on your C drive, someplace in your documents folder, or just on your desktop. I created an architectural design 1 folder, and it also has Revit files in it. So I've been storing all of the families in here, and that's just for ease of use. Because if you don't do that, you'll have to find where, if you wanted to put it with all the other Revit files, it's buried under your program data, Revit, or Autodesk Revit, and so on. So anywhere that you put it, you just have to be able to access it easily again. And when you're downloading from the internet, it's probably not going to give you, it's going to give you the last place you downloaded likely, or it's going to be set default to your downloads folder. So as far as your own file management on your end, anywhere that you can find it easily and be able to save it easily. Because let's say you want to load it in, you've downloaded it, you go to load, theoretically, it should pull up your Imperial library. So for those of you that have the Imperial library, the basic...
Now that's funny because when I just followed you along on that one, all those folders are in the English Imperial Library now. I see doors and windows, title blocks, all that.
Oh, weird. I wonder, had you tried to install it? Maybe it did like a partial install or something?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
So yeah, and so yeah, you would go here, and then on the bottom is title blocks. It's sorted alphabetically. And then you could save it in that folder if you wanted to. But again, you'd have to, from the internet or from wherever you're saving it from, you'd have to find the program data, Autodesk, Revit 2021, libraries, English Imperial, title blocks. Like I said, I kind of try to leave that stuff alone, let that be, and create a separate folder. But that's entirely up to you. So just save it anywhere that you can find it. So in my case, I'm going to load the one that I created. I'm going to browse out to it. On the right or on the left, you have all your kind of favorites. It should have loaded this Imperial and metric library, but I'll go to, let's say it's in your documents or on your computer. Let's see, favorites. Where's the downloads? I think downloads lives under C drive, I think. So if you want to put it on C drive, I think it's users, your name, and downloads, or my documents. So you just want to browse out to wherever you placed it. In this case, I put mine in an architectural design folder, Revit files, families, and I tried to set it up the same way that sets up your default. See the default libraries on the Revit folder. And so then you pick on the title block you want to insert. And in this case is that one that I have on the internet, the architectural D. And hit open. And then what it's going to do is it's going to add it to your title block. So you can select a title block. So if you were to add several title blocks, it's going to add it to your model. And then you'll be able to choose what title block it is. This select placeholder sheets, you don't have to worry about that. It's just going to be set to new. The only time you'll get other sheets in here is if you create a sheet schedule and add sheets manually. It's a way that you can create bulk sheets, but we won't get into that, I think. I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it. That's just another thing you can do. So if you just have this selected and hit OK, it's going to do the rest for you. It's going to create a sheet, and it's going to put the title block family on the sheet for you. If you go to the project browser, you can see on the project one project browser, at the bottom, there's sheets. And if you hit the plus, it'll show you the sheet that I just created. It's going to do that automatically. And it's smart, as in it just gives it the A101 unnamed. If you were to create another sheet, it'll give it an A102 unnamed, and so on and so forth. So that's how you'll create your sheet. If you've already gone through this process and you've created a sheet, and maybe there was no families in there for you, or you hit none, it will create a blank sheet. So there's no content on here at all because you told it not to have a title block, to have no title block. And if you wanted to salvage that sheet for any reason, you could just delete it and redo it again and give it a title block. But let's say you wanted to have a title block, use this sheet, the title block should live under your annotation symbols. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. So under sheets, the next group is families. You'll hit the plus for families. Go to annotation symbols. There'll be a long list of all the different families that come preloaded. You'll go to annotation symbols, and it considers the title block an annotation symbol. So you can see the architectural D24x36 horizontal title block that we just imported when we did the load. Now it's in here, and we can add it to the sheet this way. So you hit the plus, and then you can either right click and create an instance, which will then, when you go into your viewport, so I went from here, I hit create instance and drug my mouse over here, and then all of a sudden it's, you can see that I've got a title block here, and you can place and then click to place it anywhere, or you can actually just simply just drag. So I'm sorry, you would click on this title block under the plus, hold the left mouse button and drag, and then place it anywhere. Unlike AutoCAD, if you've worked in Paperspace and AutoCAD, it's weird, right? Because it has the black border, I think, and everything else is white in AutoCAD. And then they have a viewport that will be placed, that'll be there by default. And then, so if you wanted to place a title block in Paperspace and AutoCAD, you would want to place it at 0, 0. In Paperspace in Revit, doesn't really work like that. Paperspace in Revit is just a big white blank space, and it is wherever you define it. So now that we have this title block, let me know if you need me to stop or go back, or if anybody's following along. I'll take a second and redo anything that you want me to also, see how we got here. Is everybody good, or?
Yeah, have a blank sheet. Yep.
You got a blank sheet with a title block, or just a blank sheet?
No, a blank sheet with the title block.
Awesome. So now, unlike AutoCAD, we're actually just going to drag whatever view we want. So if you have your level 1 plan, we're going to drag it onto the sheet. So if you hover over here, and this is a little bit different. It doesn't look like you can create a view on the title block because it's already a view that's been created. You can right click to create a family, but for this, you would left click and drag whatever view that's highlighted over to your title or to your sheet, and then let go, and it will place the view on the sheet. And you can do as many views as you want on two. So if we're over here on the left, we got this level 2 highlighted. Well, left click and drag, and you can see the little move cursor, and let go, and it added this other view. So now that you've got a view on a sheet, I'm going to go. So if you wanted to delete the second view, you can select it. So here I'm going to left click it, and I can hit delete. But see, I picked the title, the detail title, the plan title. It's actually a different entity from the view. And I went over this a little bit in the video, but the view and the title are actually two different things that are kind of connected together. So if you were to select this title and try to delete, it doesn't do anything because this view has to have this title, theoretically. You'd have to click this whole viewport. And so as you hover over it, so if you move your mouse on top of any view, you can see the extents. And similar to AutoCAD right now, this view is zoomed extents. So the extents are the boundary of the outside of this view. And so if you hover over it and then pick once, left click and select it, you can actually get the same properties to show up that you do if we were actually in the view. So if I wanted to modify any of this, change the coarseness level or anything else, I could do that in the sheet by clicking on the view. To modify this detail, there's two ways to be able to modify this detail. One way is to click onto your view. So if you hover over and left click, you'll see that it gives these little round grips. You can drag these grips to resize your view. You can also zoom in and actually change the view name by clicking in. So if you have the view highlighted, the whole view, you can actually click in here, renumber, and rename the view. But if you have this view highlighted and you want to move this title to be centered, it's going to move the view too. So how do you do that without moving the whole view? It's kind of, at first it's kind of weird. Like it can be kind of frustrating because you're trying to move this and like, how do you work that? And because it's two different entities, to move this title, you actually have to click it by itself. You can see it highlighted there in light blue, but didn't highlight the view. See, if we roll over it, it lights up because we could select it. So when you click the title by itself, now you can reposition it to however you wanted it. You can't do anything else. You can't rename it because you're just moving the view. I can't resize the view. And that can be a little bit frustrating, confusing for people too, because Revit does some of this weird things like that, where it's one element, but two. So here, if I select the actual view, you can see that highlights the viewport. Then I can resize it, rename it, but I can't move it independently of the view. It moves the view and the title together. But if I click so if I have nothing selected, and click just the title, then I can move it to position it to wherever I wanted it to be. Does that make sense? Is there any questions?
Nope.
And so if I want to delete this view, I'd need to click the viewport and then hit delete. That view is not deleted. You can see that level 2 is still over there because this was the level 2 view. It just deletes this viewport on the sheet. So it's the level 2 view. It's still there. If I delete it, it's just taking it off of this sheet. So the next step you'd want to do is you'd want to put it in the sheet. And I'm going to guess that some of you probably placed it on the sheet and it's probably too big for the sheet or too small. Or, you know, it's like way out here. And to fix that, you'll want to select the view, and it'll bring up your viewport properties. And so in this case, for me, it's too small if this was the actual size of my building. So maybe I'd want to change the scale. So over here under view scale, you can select this arrow and pick a different scale. Oops, I went the wrong direction. So if it was 1/8 inch before and I wanted to make it show up bigger on the sheet, I'd hit 1/4 inch equals a foot under the view scale and it will make it bigger. So the next thing is you're probably looking at it and how do you make it so that everything's all flying off the edge of your page. And your title block's all messed up. We showed you how to fix that. You can grab this title without grabbing the viewport and move it up so that it's within your title block. And the next thing you can do is select the view, and then up at the top, it immediately brings up your modify viewports palette, and then there's activate view. If you read it, it will allow you to activate the view. And so if you activate the view, this is like going into paper space in AutoCAD. On the left here, the properties, we have our on the properties, under extents, which is about halfway or 2/3 down, there'll be a crop view and a crop region visible, and an annotation crop. So to get a crop view, this will turn this view so that it'll be cropped. So basically, if you're in like doing Paperspace AutoCAD, this would give you your viewport window. So that will enable it to be cropped. The second box, the crop region visible, does exactly what it says, is it makes the crop region show up. So now we can see why our view is flying off the sides of the page, is because the crop region, it will default to the extents of the content you have in your model. So it basically puts this crop region a little past these elevation markers. To adjust that, you'll select on your crop region, because we've turned it on, now we can see it, and you just left click on the crop region and it'll give you a couple options. You can see that there's these little grips, so you can grab any of these grips, left click and drag any direction, and it will resize your crop window. You could actually give it a size by going up to the modify crop size and then giving it an actual dimension width. So if we know our sheet is 30 by 42, or what is this, 36 by 24, theoretically we should be able to give it the crop size of the sheet. Here it sets the annotation crop size. We can hit apply and it will automatically size it to whatever we gave the sheet, this width and height, and hit OK. And now it's sized it to be, well, exactly this size of the sheet. And as you can see, I can left click and drag the crop, and it doesn't affect your drawing because you're basically moving the window into the view around, and we're cropping out the different content that we have in here. Another way is to be able, so another way to edit the crop boundary of a view is edit crop. And as you can see on the little picture, it allows you, if you have a floor plan, their example is a really long floor plan where they just want to crop out one half of the building. You can edit the crop, which will bring up your boundary lines. And then so you can draw your boundary lines to whatever you want. Often on a project that you get, your crop region may be really big and you don't want to drag every side. And it just, depending on what you're working on, you can actually just erase these. So if you left click and drag and hold it down, you can drag a window, delete your boundaries, go up to the modify, the edit profile tab, and then get the rectangle or a line, whatever you want to do. And you can redraw your boundary to be exactly what you want. I find that this is my preferred way to do it. I like to be able to just, get into the boundary, delete it all, and just, adjust the view exactly where I want it. And when you're done, there's this modify tab that you just hit this big green check to finish the edit mode. And then now it's cropped out everything. All of your elevations or anything outside of this crop region. Is there any questions so far? Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I didn't get the template situation because I was saying goodbye to my parents. I was probably saying goodbye to my parents. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Just let me know.
So
how
basic.
did you do this template thing? How did you do it? Did you get the link or something like that, or what did you do?
For which part? The creating the
template, creating the title block. How did you do that? Or was it pre-made?
AutoCAD or Revit comes with a pre-made one, but I have one that is located on Moodle that you can download.
Oh, yeah, the one on Moodle. I remember that. I know that.
Okay, yeah, and it'll be different than the one in the PDF folder that we looked at before. This
Is it in
one,
the Revit file? Are they in the Revit files?
correct?
And
Yes.
files and families and
Yep.
title blocks
Files,
and- Okay. All right.
families.
You know when I have help. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Wyatt. Is somebody else had a question too?
Oh, I was just going to say, so basically, I did catch a glimpse of that video where you're talking about editing the title block. So with the title block around the floor plan, edit the title block the way you want it, and then we just print to a PDF. I guess that's the last question I would have tonight is how would we go about the printing you said was a pain in the butt?
Yeah, it definitely can be. So once you get your title block all set up with your floor plan on it, if you go up to the file and print, or if you want to hit Control P, we'll also bring up print, which I think is a common shortcut for most programs. It brings up this print dialog box. Because we have Bluebeam, and if you have any other printers loaded, to print to a PDF, you would want to bring up Bluebeam PDF in this name. And then next thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to go down to default setup. So at the bottom right, there's setup. And we'll set up the printer or the page. So at the top, this is just what the name of the print setup is. So right now it's just set to a default, which is a letter. So the first thing you'll do is you'll click on the left click on the size and change that to whatever size title block you're using. In this case, we're using an architectural D. You can see here on the list. Hopefully these loaded for you. That might be another issue is if you don't have the architecture, if they're not loaded, you might not have those. But if you have those, you'll pick the architectural D because that's the size title block we're using. Pick that. And it sets the architectural D. We don't need to pick a source because it's not going to actually go to a printer tray. The next thing you'll print is the paper place, or you'll change the paper placement, and we'll offset from corner. And then under zoom, which is right below the paper placement, we'll hit, instead of fit to page, we'll hit the zooms and it'll be 100% so that we're getting a true scale. The other thing that I will often have set is, see these options down below? There's hide reference and work plane. So those reference planes we had drawn, it will automatically hide those. It'll be on like a no plot layer, as it were, if you're familiar with CAD. I also check hide unreferenced view tags. So if you have your elevation tags in there, but you don't have any elevations on the sheet yet, if there are views that are not on the sheet, you can hit this hide unreferenced view tags and those elevations won't print. They'll still be there, you'll still see them, but if they're not on a sheet, they won't print. So I always like to do that so I don't have to hide them. Hide scope boxes should be checked, which those we're not going to be talking about in this term. It's another way to use a crop region. And then hide crop boundaries. So if I were to forget to turn off my crop boundary, when we print, it would automatically hide that because it's checked. And then replace halftone with thin lines. There's some other settings in there that would have to deal with that. You can set reference things or different elements to be halftone, and you would check that and it would just make it a thin line instead of a halftone line. A halftone line would have a thickness and be light gray, and so sometimes that's not desirable. So then we'll kind of work our way up here. These settings, whatever you want to do, high is fine, and color. excuse me, if you want to do black and white, that's fine. So I'm sorry, if you hit colors, there's black lines, grayscale also. Color is fine. So then any of the materials we apply will show up in color. And then the next one will be raster processing versus vector. We'd want it to keep on at vector processing. That will give us actual line content in the model in our drawing, so that no matter how far you zoom in, it won't be pixelated. And the raster processing will give it, it'll be more pixelated. So you want to keep it at vector. Once we get shading and some things, you might get a warning that says, due to shading and other kind of things, it's going to use raster processing, and that's fine. But we'll want it set for vector processing for default, and to make sure it's set to landscape. And we'll go ahead and hit save. At the top here, hopefully it's going to save our default as this. This is probably what we'll always want to print at. But I also hit save as, and then I will title it 24 by 36 color, or whatever sheet size you're using. Hit enter, and so now you can see we have our default and our 24 by 36 color. So now every time when we bring it up, it'll be default to that, just in case we forget to change our printer setup. So once you do that, you hit OK. And then so now you have some other options. Right now, you just have a current window, and then combine multiple selected view sheets into a single file. So right now, it'll print the current window, and it'll print it into one file. If you hit preview, you'll get a preview of what it's going to print. And you can click to zoom in. And then when you're done, don't hit close, because that'll close you completely out of your print dialog. You'll want to hit print again, because it'll take you back to your print dialog box. And then you can go ahead and hit print. Once you do that, it'll bring up your save as folder, and wherever you want to save it, go ahead and put it in that folder. And you can name it here. There's some other settings that Bluebeam allows you to change in here, but you should be able to just leave it the way it is and hit save. And it should then automatically open it after you've printed it. And it'll open it into your default printer program, and that's it. That is printing in a nutshell.
Hey, I'm still on the tab, which should have gave me a preview, and it's not saying no views are selected.
Yeah. So if you're on here, if you've selected views and sheets, it won't give you a preview. So you'll want just current window.
Yeah, it won't let me select current window.
Do you have, what is the printer name?
The Bluebeam PDF.
And what about the settings in
It's 24 by 36 color, the one we just set up.
So you just set it up, and then it's not giving you, and it's on current window?
No, it won't let me click current window. It popped right up at selected view sheets and no preview tab available.
Interesting. And so that was the next thing I was going to cover. If you hit select, you can choose and print multiple sheets at a time. Let's close out of it. Just escape or hit close. And when you bring it back up, is it still selected views and sheets?
Just a second here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it automatically went to the Bluebeam there. Let's see. Yeah, that's weird. It won't let me click either one of those: visible portion, current window.
And you're in your title block view, I assume too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any other options up here besides the Bluebeam PDF?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to open it back up again. Let's see. Yeah, I could use Adobe or Microsoft or.
So when you use Adobe, does it then give you the current window?
Yes, it does.
Interesting. So I don't know what about the Bluebeam.
Well, so every time I open Revit now, since I installed Bluebeam, it's been asking me if I wanted to make Bluebeam my default PDF viewer, and I keep just ignoring it.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, that would be frustrating if that's the issue, because that's kind of spammy. So I guess for now, so when that pop-up comes up, are you just hitting cancel or are you just hitting no? Is there a don't ask me this again?
No, I'm just closing it out. It says it's just an okay. I'd have to open the program up again and see what it says.
I wouldn't imagine that would be affecting this, but that would be pretty lame if that's screwing it up. Part of their software would be kind of blocking it, I guess. That seems weird. So yeah, I guess just choose Adobe. Kind of doesn't matter as far as the printer goes. The only difference, so when you go to print, if you have Adobe, and if you did your current window and your preview, you can go back to print. It won't pop up the Bluebeam dialog box, which doesn't really matter because I don't change anything on this. So you should be okay just using Adobe, and then it shouldn't have any issues opening it up in any other PDF reading software. So were you able to get it to print with Adobe?
It comes up all sized wonky if I try to use Adobe. So I'm going to play with it for a second.
Okay. Is everybody else having similar issues or? Katie, Allen, or Wyatt, were you able to get the print title block set up and able to print?
Nah, I haven't done it really yet, but
Okay.
since I gotten the site, I need to look on the levels 1 and 2. Okay, weren't we supposed to go on views or anything like that, or what?
To print?
No, to get the title block, because I already got the title block and saved it in a folder. Saved it in the folder. I just need to get it out. I just need to put that in there.
Yeah. So if you go up to View.
Okay.
And then over here to
View
Sheet.
templates. User interface.
It'll be Sheet. Kind of 2/3 from the left. So right here under Sheet. Sheet company.
A View.
Nope. Next, right to the left of that, it should say Sheet.
Right here. And then we can load, and then.
So yeah, if you hit load.
And then English Imperial or what?
So to load the title block you just downloaded, you would need to browse
my folder.
Yeah, so you'd need to browse out to your folder.
Yeah. So that I chose the 24x36. Is that the right one?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'd select that and hit open.
I hit open. Okay.
And then okay, and it'll create a new sheet.
Okay. Okay. So how do I put my floor plan on the title block? What am I supposed to do?
So you're going to your project browser and select the floor plan that you want to put on the sheet. So it'll highlight in blue.
Oh, so you want to get the floor plan, highlight it, and then
Yeah, you'll left mouse click, hold that down, and then drag over, and you can see if you've got it. It'll
blue.
Yeah. So you'll pick it with the left mouse button.
I got it.
And then, if you pick it, hold the mouse button down and start dragging towards your sheet. And when you're on top of your sheet, you let go and it will create a sheet. It just gave me a warning because I already had that view on a sheet. So if you've already got a view on a sheet, it won't let you put it on multiple sheets. But so I'll try again here. I'll highlight it in blue, hold the left mouse button down and drag.
Okay, hold on a second. I think I got it.
Okay, cool.
Boom. It looks pretty big though. No.
Yeah, so you'll want to adjust the view scale to be appropriate for your sheet size.
Okay.
So I imagine it's probably at an 1/8 inch equals a foot.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I need to go. I did get the printer thing figured out though, so it looks like it's going to work.
Oh, good. Thank you, Thomas. Sorry about that.
All right.
Hit me up if you have any more questions.
No, I'm okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a few questions if everybody's done.
Wow.
Thank you for your help.
Yep, I'm good. Thank you so much for all this.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta go take my folks to the airport. It's been nice talking to you.
You too, Wyatt. Thank you.
Gotta get out of here.
Thank you.
Again, let me know.
Thank you. All right. See ya.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be great to have this up on the site so we can review it 3 more times.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
I'll definitely post it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No problem, Alan.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hope
You're
to see
welcome,
you
Wyatt.
soon.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay, so I have a few questions.
Yeah.
So I know that in the video it said to do the dimensions from the end of the wall to the other end of the wall.
Yes.
So when I was trying to draw them, I got it to work now because I just made it one continuous wall. But if I did it from end to end, like editing it at any point that I've already had it in there, it would break the wall. Is there a way to join it back? Like, it was kind of like I was trying to dimension it, and then if I did it end to end on that one, it would be messed up on the wall next to it, and then I'd edit that one and it would be messed up on the wall next to it, and then I just kept going like round and round in circles.
Okay. Right. Sorry, my Revit keeps closing out on me here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Like, I have it right now set up to where I measured it and all of the exterior walls are correct, but if I go to the wall itself where you can change the dimension, that's not right.
Okay, so let me see if I can. So you have a dimension from the outside of your wall. And you're trying to change that dimension?
I can share my screen if you want, and you can kind of see it better. I
Yeah.
might be able to explain it better that way.
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure out. You don't
I
have.
think you have to make me either co-host or host.
Oh, okay. So you can't. I can't have you just share your screen. Gotcha. So I'll make you a co-host. Because last time I made somebody host, and when they left, I lost my meeting.
Oh
So
no.
are you able to share? Here, I'll stop. Oops.
Yeah.
I'll stop share.
This is it. Can you see my screen now?
I can.
Okay, cool. So in this, so I have it just measured, but if I go here, and I'm not sure if there's like a way to get the dimension to come down here instead, but it doesn't give me the dimension of it that way. And
Oh.
also, like if I were to do this, the grips are in the middle, and the only way I could get it to actually be 14 is if I went out here and then gripped it back and then went out here, gripped it back. But then if I tab over, it doesn't include all the other walls. And then this one is like to the center too.
Yeah.
So if I went out this way and brought it back, then this one would be back to 13.8.
Yeah, because it has an automatic way that it does that. If you zoom in onto that 13.8, I think that well on the 4, so you see how it has the little round grips there. Yeah, but if you look on the left on the 4-inch one,
Mm-hmm.
so if you grab one of those grips, you can actually change where that pulls from. So if you click on that and drag,
Like drag it up.
yeah, but that's okay. Let's do a different route here. So
Because I've tried doing this and then going to 0, but then it changes the other wall, and then I just keep going like round and round.
yeah. So go ahead and undo. Let's kill that 4-inch dimension. Yep, perfect. And so let's just walk through. So where do you want to start? And we'll walk through.
Let me get it back to normal so I don't mess up everything. Oop. Let me see if that works. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So is that wall set where you want it to be, the 14 feet from the face to the other face?
Yes. Everything is exactly where I want it. So I was wondering also, can you lock it or no?
Yeah. You could lock it. So if you were to hover over the walls and tab once and then pick. So tab and then pick. And up at the top there is a little pin in the middle on the so you could pin it. And then now you won't be able to modify. You could try to actually click and drag those.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then it won't let it go anywhere.
Okay. Perfect. Because yeah, that was driving me nuts. So are we going to be using the 8-inch walls? Because is that going to affect the dimensions moving forward?
So for example, you see how on your properties you have finished face exterior?
Yeah.
So that's going to hold all your dimensions that you have, because your dimensions are all to the finished face of exterior. So change that basic generic wall. So if you go, I'm sorry, to change it, yeah, click on that on the top properties and then change it to any wall type. And so what it does is it's holding that outside face, and it's going to push any changes, any increase in width in towards the building, because it's holding that outside face, because your location line is locked to that exterior face. And so that makes it nice so that any adjustments that you make, we can make this wall type whatever you wanted it to be. So go ahead and select all your walls again, and we can and you can even do that hover tab in the 3D view. So go if you go to your generic 12-inch masonry right now and click that, and then go up to, there's some fancy wall types at the top, So like, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Yeah. So I was going to any of those. And so now it's changed that, but it's held your face. So now your exterior dimensions are still the same. It's holding that face because we have the location line set to exterior. And so it's going to push it all towards the inside instead of outside and keep your dimensions held. So you can actually, even though they're pinned locationally, but you can still modify the element. Okay. So for instance, let's look at that wall. See how if you pan around, all the exterior is.
Yeah, I was trying to I know that you do space bar in order to get it to flip, but I forgot. There's one more step. Yeah,
that's fine. If you go to your plan, so we'll have to do a couple things. So go ahead and unpin it. And before we do anything, select the wall and then go to the location line. Oops, let's unpin it again. I think it didn't take. So select it. Why is it?
Am I in the pin command somehow?
You should be able to. So, select. I think you have to actually pick the wall.
Hold on, the zoom thing is all up here.
Oh yeah, I hate that.
There we go.
Yeah.
That? Okay.
Yep. And before you click anything else, see the location line? We're going to want to make the location line the center of the wall. Because now if we hit space, it would screw up your dimensions.
Right, okay.
So you'll hit wall center, and it's going to put that little node in the center of your wall. Now you can either click that little arrow.
Okay.
Or you can hit space bar. Yeah, sorry, my video, I'm so used to like, I have like a system and I go, and yep, exactly, change it back to exterior. And then you could repin it so then it won't move again.
Okay. Perfect. And I think
now you've got a fancy wall type and you've been able to maintain your exterior boundaries.
Okay, perfect. And then I bet you mentioned this in the video, but for interior walls, to measure them, are we doing interior to interior or exterior to exterior for the like thickness of the wall?
So for interior walls, as long as you're consistent, it should be fine. So our example PDF that we had, the architect actually did face of stud for the exterior walls, and then center line of wall for the interior walls. And they note that on their general note sheet, and then they have a note on their on the floor plan sheet.
Okay.
So the main rule with the dimensioning is just be consistent, and then know exactly how you're going to be dimensioning. So often, a lot of times it'll be face of stud for exterior walls and then center line for interior walls.
Okay. Okay, I think that is all that I have. Okay, one last thing actually.
Yeah.
So let's say I wanted to do a wall from here. Oops. So is that going to join it to the other walls, or like is it supposed to be disconnected?
It should be fine being joined. Especially for this exercise, it should be fine. And that's the way it's meant to work. I think maybe in the video I mentioned that I often will disconnect them from my exterior walls, so that you can there's an option to make them not join. But for this exercise, that's okay for it to join or to not join it. Either way is fine.
Okay. All right. I think that's all that I have.
Okay.
All righty.
Yeah, and just shoot me an email if there's any other questions. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And then, let me know if there's any other issues you're having, and any input is good too. So concerning, I know some people were having issues with the size of the mouse, moving too fast, using shortcut keys. I've been trying to not use shortcut keys. So if there's anything like that, that is distracting or making it hard for you to understand, just let me know.
Okay, I think definitely the mouse being bigger is better. But everything else has been great. Just learning the new program is hard.
Yeah. And then like I told everybody else, we'll adjust the program as I kind of gauge, you know, how everybody's been able to do it. Seems like most people are struggling a bit with just the interface. So,
All right.
all right, Katie, thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks.